First reported on TM Landry School in Lafayette because it was claiming unprecedented success in getting its students placed in Ivy League universities. But now the school is making national headlines after allegations that much of the information in those Ivy League applications was fake. Not only that, there are claims the people who run the school emotionally and physically abused students. Meg Ferris joins us now with the shocking update. Meg.
Of course, Ton, and the feel-good videos pulled the country in on social media, then it pulled journalists in, and when parents started seeing negative changes in their children and felt something was wrong at the school, they kept going back to the school's Facebook page and those inspirational videos. The videos went viral. The elation of students from TM Landry College Prep opening acceptance letters from Ivy League and other prestigious universities. The school in Breaux Bridge soon attracted network news anchors telling the Cinderella story. Children from working-class families beating the odds in a warehouse-type setting with no books required. WWL-TV was one of the many news sources to report on what was believed to be a success story.
Where do you want to go to college?
Cornell.
Cornell?
Brown.
Brown.
But the fairy tale's now unraveling. In a New York Times investigation, the school is under fire for allegedly doctoring college applications, falsifying transcripts, and practicing physical and emotional abuse. New York Times reporter Katie Benner wrote the investigative article on the school and owners, married couple Michael and Tracy Landry.
Both parents and students used the word cult in almost every single interview. Many of them said again and again, it felt like a cult. It felt like we were supposed to be a family, we were supposed to be supporting one another, but we were also supposed to keep secrets from one another.
She thinks the alleged violence explains why for so long the students wouldn't even tell parents about what was supposedly going on in the school. Over the summer, parents confronted the Landrys in a meeting after independent evaluations showed how academically far behind their children were.
In return, he got very angry with them and he yelled at them, and in their telling he called them a racial slur. Now, you saw attendance really drop after that point.
Benner reports that the ACT test scores were high because of repeated practice on the test rather than overall learning. Some students left those colleges. Benner plans to do follow-up reporting on some of the many people who sent donations to the school after all the media attention. One was Al Jackson, a host on Daily Blast Live here on Channel 4. Even our parent company donated through the Tegna Foundation. And she wonders how the state will look into schools such as TM Landry, ones that take no state funds, so have no oversight or accreditation from the State Board of Education. Now, just an hour and a half ago, I talked to Michael Landry on the phone. He told me he'd have information and a statement to show that all these allegations were wrong. Then he said to call him back in 20 minutes and he would have the details for me. I've called several times. He is not answering and his voicemail is full, and he texted me he was in a meeting. We have more at 6.
All right, Meg, thank you.